Hi, I'm Joe. For the past 2 years, I've been working on a stylized, modern military real-time tactics RPG. Welcome to the second devlog for Infiniwar. This is the game in its current state. It's a work in progress still, but it's come a long way, and I'll be talking about it a lot more in the future. But it started off much simpler, and in this video, I'll be talking about how the project almost died before even getting off the ground. First, sorry for the delay. I got sick with a certain globe-spanning illness. You know the one. If my voice sounds a little funny, that's why. Don't die on me now, voice. The first devlog covered how I finally started making games after years of failing to escape tutorial hell. After getting some inspiration from Mark Brown, I had built a little toy on my own. I didn't have a clear idea of where I wanted to take it mechanically, though. It's not a good idea to get too attached to your prototype, so I decided to change direction. I decided that I'd do a kind of clone, or, as Mark puts it,
the ancient art of plagiarism.
But with a twist. The idea was a sort of reverse direction missile command, but in 3D. Instead of shooting up at missiles, you'd be raining artillery shells down on advancing hordes. Calling down artillery strikes is definitely going to come up again. I had a vaguely sort of trench warfare, World War I themed idea, but it wasn't any more developed than that. The main thing I wanted was really simple to implement game mechanics and visual effects, mostly just to keep myself on track while I was learning. First, there would be explosions. Well, those aren't going to win any awards, but good enough for now. This proved the concept of using 3D meshes and materials instead of quads and flipbooks, which I wanted to avoid. This will be a common thread for VFX for Infiniwar in the future. Enemies would spawn and try to make it across no man's land, and you'd shoot at them and try to stop them. Editor Joe here. Sorry for the low quality on the upcoming game clips. When I originally recorded them, I didn't plan on showing them publicly. Please bear with me, there will be better quality clips moving forward. Add in a little physics for some chaos. And of course, the same hacky mini-map from the last devlog would have to make an appearance too. I can't escape that thing, it just keeps following me. Proper artillery shells needed to arrive from above before exploding on impact. In a little over a week, I had made some good progress. But something started to beckon to me. Something I had heard call to me throughout my entire life. The Siren Song of video games. I started playing Satisfactory, an early access first-person factory building game. I was a sucker for this kind of a game. It was the most recent in a long line. Factorio, any of the Zachtronics games like Space Chem or Opus Magnum. Don't forget about Infinifactory. Why does that name sound familiar? I was still working on the artillery game, but I was slowing down. I added some UI to track kills, escaped enemies, along with increasing waves, and a simple win state of surviving for 3 waves. Too many enemies reaching the other side would cause you to lose. Nothing amazing, of course. I was just coming to grips with the basics of tracking game state and displaying it in the UI. Part of the problem was that UI and state tracking felt a lot like my job as a web developer, way less fun than graphics and physics. Maybe I had gone too hard too fast and was burning out. Ever so slowly, Satisfactory consumed my after-work free time hours until there was nothing left for game dev and progress ceased entirely. This isn't the first time this has happened. In my last devlog, I talked about taking multi-year breaks between attempts at game dev. What was I doing? Gaming. A lot of gaming. Sometimes hundreds or even thousands of hours. It was a little excessive at times, sometimes bordering on addiction. So was that it? Was my dream of making my own game dead again? For the next 3 months, it certainly looked that way. So what was I getting out of Satisfactory anyway? Well, it's a good game if you're into the kind of thing it offers. There's attractive environments to explore, interesting problems to solve, and a big toolbox full of lots of different tools to be creative and expressive. A huge sandbox. Once some of the newness of the game wore off, I found myself looking around at what I'd built and just feeling empty. Who would see what I built? And even if they did, who would care? Sure, I could invite some friends to play or join someone else's server, but it didn't really feel like it would solve the problem. I just felt like I was wasting my time, wasting my life. I knew where this path leads. Once a game gets its hooks into me, I'll play for far longer than it feels good. That year, I had a week off of work between Christmas and New Year. It was enough time to relax, decompress, and give game dev another shot. I decided to open up the artillery game and pick up where I'd left off. I still didn't have a real game because nothing prevented you from just spamming artillery as fast as you could click. I also wanted to add a bit more player choice, so I added precision barrages versus wide area. This game mechanic was borrowed from World in Conflict, one of my favorite games. I also made ammo more limited, so you'd have to pick your shots a little more carefully and get the timing right for maximum casualties. It wasn't pretty, but it was at least a tiny bit fun. Directing the artillery was satisfying, if a little one-dimensional, and seeing the crappy little dudes go flying was amusing. Actually, my little act of plagiarism turned out to be pretty inspiring. Reverse engineering a game mechanic I was already familiar with and seeing it come to life under my complete control was really cool. As I was developing the game, I was sending clips of my progress to my brother, who's also a developer. We live in different states, so we text about games and projects that we're working on to keep in touch and help motivate each other. My game wasn't much, but it was something. Nothing I would show to anyone else, of course, but I could show my brother. He would understand the work that it took to get to this point. That's when it started to click for me. I liked the feeling of having something to show for my time, something I could be proud of. Instead of the empty feeling I got from hundreds of hours of gaming, I was feeling fulfilled. I've got some more to say about this, but a devlog doesn't seem like the right place for it, so maybe I'll make another video later. So I managed to narrowly avoid getting sucked in by gaming and giving up on game dev. I still had a few more days left of time off work before the new year. Could I keep the momentum up? I started to think about other ways to make the game more interesting. Obstacles, power-ups, maybe some friendly soldiers shooting back. What else could I copy from games that I loved? One thing I knew for sure, that boring flat ground had to go. In the next devlog, we are talking terrain. I had a week off of work between one of those has got to be good enough. Friendly soldiers shooting back. That's going to be a pain. Friendly soldiers shooting back. Good enough.